It's Clark and Perry on the case. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry.
Do what it takes.
Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry. Investigate.
The activities and interests of local artists in the Windy City's finest throughout both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Available on TELUS, Optic TV, On Demand, VidFlex, YouTube, and more for limited time only. Terms and conditions apply.
Da-na-na-na.
Welcome once again to the Windy City's finest. I'm Clark, he's Perry, and we are joined once again by Don Olson, who's gone through a bit of a costume change.
Represent.
That's right. We're going to be talking about motivation. We're going to be talking about occupational therapy for the most part as well too. We had the chance to kind of briefly talk about this during our initial stage of the interrogation, that sometimes we try to call it as well too, but the interview, where there's a lot of different learnings that really you try to take roots in and take information from as well too, that teaches you all about this one practice. Now, we talked about a little briefly like where it originated from and why you practice it still on and throughout. And it's taken you to a lot of different places as well. One of which being, I think it was South America. I think we can probably start our topics off from right there. But what was this for? What was this like?
So it was right after I got married, and I was working as an OT in Calgary, and I said to my husband, like, I want to live somewhere else in the world. Like, that's one of my dreams. And he was like, I want a big screen TV. And I was like, okay, we can do both those things, I think. Anyway, and so we actually he started with this volunteer organization called VSO at the time, Volunteer Service Overseas. It was a Canadian kind of a government related thing. And so he's a computer guy. And so he got set up with, like, he did some training on volunteerism and stuff. And then he got set up on a 6-month placement in Guyana, South America.
Wow.
To do like web design for a organization there. And they have OT volunteers through the same organization, but it was just going to be a bit of a hassle to get us placed in the same spot together and all that. So I just like went along. And then when I got there, I was like, hey, I'm an OT. Like, do you need any volunteers for that? And they were like, you're an OT? Oh my gosh. So they had a couple of OT volunteers already.
Yeah.
And so they onboarded me there. And it was really cool.
Yeah.
Because the placements are usually like set up kind of a job description before you go, but because I was kind of like a bonus OT, I got to choose my own adventure a little bit.
Nice.
And so I sort of pitched a few things that I think that I thought I might be able to sort of help that country with, and then got to do them. And so one of the big things is that Guyana has what they call it the brain drain. So like people that get educated try to leave Guyana, and so they don't have a lot of professionals.
Right.
So they have a lot of assistants, therapy assistants, OTPT assistants, but there's not a ton of therapists.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to start an OT university program. But basically one of my things was to help to teach the therapy assistants things that they could be doing with clients that were in the hospital. So some of my days I spent doing that, which was really cool. And then a big thing that was so exciting for me was I saw this like care facility, like where old folks would live. Yep. And I was kind of heartbroken when I was there because it was really inaccessible. Like there were stairs everywhere, and so these people were kind of like stuck. And sometimes like even there was like a stair to get to the shower, and they're like in a wheelchair. And so that's how they were living. And so I actually came up with the idea that I wanted to try to fund some renovations. Because another part of OT is accessibility and stuff like that. And so
and a just cause as well too, right?
Yeah, so I got a contractor, and I'd never done anything like this before, but I got him to like price out wall bars and ramps and you know, all that stuff. And basically, so it was like a 4-story building and no elevator. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to make it accessible, that everybody would be able to like get out.
Yeah.
But they had a big patio on the front of the building on each floor. And so I wanted to make it so that people could access the outside in that way, as well as access the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I got this contractor to like price out all the stuff. And then I have a friend who's an OT, and her husband's family heritage is Guyanese.
Yeah.
And before I had left, she was like, if there's ever anything that you need, I've got these Guyanese connections. And so I reached out to this Guyanese Canadian Cultural Society. They were based out of Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, I want to do this renovation project. And it was $2,500 US. And so I was like, if there's any way you could fund part of it or whatever. And I was going to like reach out to family and friends. And they were like, oh yeah, like we'll give it to you.
Here you go.
Here you go.
Yeah.
And I remember just like bawling. I was so excited because like, now years later, $2,500 doesn't seem that much, but it was like, it's a lot in Guyanese currency.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they just said, we'll cut you a check. Like, you just have to do a presentation about it.
Wow.
So, and in Guyanese currency, it's like the biggest bill is like a $20, like the equivalent of a $20 bill. So I had like a suitcase of money. Like,
Oh my goodness.
And so I went to the contractor and I was like, start the work. And they were like, you don't have the money. I was like, oh yeah, I do. And so I was on the news.
Did you have a classic movie experience where you slammed it down and just popped it right open?
I put that in the safe. It was like, I was so terrified about it. But yeah, so they did the renovations, and all of those people were able to access both the outdoor space as well as the bathroom. So it was a big, proud moment in my life.
That's an amazing story that you have, and you helped so many people doing that.
Yeah.
And like you said, all it really took was, I mean, mind you, it's $2,500, but USD, of course. But like that to some folks is something that is and should be afforded. Because how many people did this help out?
Oh, well, there was, I can't remember, and that was quite a long time ago, but there was probably 200 people that lived in that building. 200
people, divide that by $2,500. That to me is worth the price anytime.
Well, and
right?
just like
just
the human
the
dignity of being able to have a shower and go outside. Right?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
That just improved the quality of life of these people.
So that 6 months was really special. And then we were, like there were volunteers from all these other countries at the same time as us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made these lifelong friends. They were like family. We visited people all over the world because of it. Like it was a very special experience in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we traveled around a bit, came home, bought a big screen TV. It all just...
It all just came around. Still got the big screen TV at the end, too.
My husband hates it when I tell that story. My dream.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I really liked the part that you said, like you basically, as you kind of broke down, as you were kind of meeting these assistants as well too, you almost did like some education from abroad as well too. Like that's what you pretty much did. So what did you necessarily teach them? Was it more, and as we discussed, there's a lot of left brain to right brain when it comes to occupational therapy. So what typically was the stuff that you would teach?
Well, when I was working with the therapy assistants, they were the ones that were working in the hospital. And so like everybody is different in their needs, but you can sort of typically know that a person who's had a hip fracture is likely going to follow this pathway.
Yeah.
Like, or a person that's had a stroke. Like there's lots of different kinds of strokes, mind you, and but this is sort of the typical therapy pattern.
Yeah.
And so therapy assistants should be working under the direction of an OT, but because there isn't that, I could teach them, like I started a heart attack kind of a pathway. So here's some education that you can give to every person in here that has had a heart attack that, it could probably help them
prevent another one in the future. And help
like
improve
after
their
you have a
lives.
heart attack, your energy levels are really low. And so there's a lot to do with like energy conservation and how to, keep yourself from getting super fatigued and, the types of things that you can do. So it was a little bit more about that. And then, this is terrible, but they had a burn unit at that hospital, and some of those burn victims were in a bad way, and so they have to do a lot of range of motion and things to make sure that their limbs don't get contracted.
Of course.
So we could teach about those kinds of things that
Yeah.
they could be doing for when, after 6 months when I wasn't there anymore.
Mhm.
Kind of the key to that VSO volunteer organization was to try to set people up for success. The whole
Yeah.
like teach a guy to fish, like
Yep.
yeah. So it wasn't like I was going in and doing the work. I was trying to help to help to
Consulting
enable them
consulting
to,
the entire time
Mhm.
and helping
Yeah.
to give them the tools from
Yeah.
another perspective, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And they actually, so one of the other volunteers that was there, who was Canadian and OT,
Mhm.
her big role was to help figure out the feasibility of a university program.
Mhm.
And they ended up like 10 years later graduating their first group of OTs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Which
is
she was
amazing.
like kind of the very small start of that.
Yeah, that's again, and now I'm starting to think all about the, it all could have started at that $2,500 and meeting these people and adding these layers on throughout, and then getting the big screen TV at the end as well too.
Right? I know, like
Full circle. No, that's amazing. So a lot of mapping as it comes to. I guess what you could do for me is break down a little bit more of the mapping. Is that more of like these are typical pathways that people will follow, or these are like the typical like recovery plans to help improve?
Yeah, like I'm meaning like when like we see a lot of hip fractures.
Sure.
Like a lot of elderly people, when they fall, they break their hip.
Yep.
And so it's typical that for 6 weeks there are some things that they aren't allowed to. They have to use a two-wheeled walker. They
Yeah.
aren't sometimes allowed to bend past 90 degrees, those types of things. And then at 6 weeks, things change. They can start to move to a different kind of a walker and those kinds of things. So there's a little bit of recipe involved in
Right.
certain conditions.
Yeah.
But it never is exactly a recipe when you're dealing with people.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody's bodies is very unique and
Well,
different.
and more like this.
Yeah. That's also true. Yeah. No, I imagine I definitely have a few stories to share of like my grandmother Rothwell. She was like really tough as nails pretty much, and lived to a very ripe old age as well too. But she was quite inspirational. She had a broken hip, was able to get up and still kind of walk over to the phone, and then had the phone, figured she'd finish her TV as well too, and then eventually was like, okay, now I'm okay for interruptions at this point as well.
I'm ready for surgery.
Yeah, I'm ready for this at
Turkey
this point.
dinner's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's amazing. So I bet you have a lot of experience when it comes to the variety of people's attitudes. What do you think really helps them the most in accepting this type of therapy?
Two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, people that want to try things, like they want, like I know everybody kind of wants to get better, but there's sort of sometimes people that have more of the mindset of, no, I should wait till it doesn't hurt, or like that kind of thing. So like people that are ready to push themselves to do exercises outside of therapy sessions, who own it, rather than like OT is very teach and you do, rather than do to you. Like
that makes sense.
if you're just coming in and I'm moving your hand for you, and then you're going home and not doing anything for 3 days till you come in and I move your hand again, you're not going to be as successful as if you own it.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, like for people that are needing a bit more caregiving, is for the caregiver to allow that, which can sometimes be challenging too, right?
Are there
like within reason, right? Like,
yeah.
If I'm doing everything for somebody, then they're probably not going to get better at doing it for themselves, right? Like if you have a kid and you're trying to teach them to tie their shoes, and every time you leave the house you're in a hurry and you tie their shoes for them, how long do you think it's going to take for them to figure out how to tie their shoes?
A lot longer. You're still going to be wearing Velcro by the time you get back.
Yeah.
No.
So there's a lot of that kind of motivation that comes in to OT. Why do you want to be able to do this? How is this going to change your life?
So I'm interested to know a little bit more about this shirt as well too. So where exactly did you get this shirt?
I got this shirt through work. So every October is OT month.
Whoop, whoop.
And so it's national, and we try to do some good team building and promote our profession. And so a few years ago, we came up with this shirt design, and we had the option of buying them. We can wear them to work. But it just, I liked the design because it feels very us.
Yeah. Really, well, just in not your own words, but just being able to do some real good in the society to help motivate other people to hopefully do the same as well too.
Yeah.
No, that's lovely. So, how does necessarily, so like, for example, I'm gonna fall on the sword on this one. So I actually didn't know what OT was at all when we first spoke.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to be delving into this again as well too. So I'm kind of curious to know, how does the process work for yourself? Do you typically book like an appointment? Is this something that's like, how does this necessarily work?
So it kind of depends on what type of thing you're needing. So OTs tend to work, well, there's OTs that work in private practice. So you could just like look in the phone book, Google an OT.
Yeah.
But
however we find them,
they would want to know like what it is that you're seeking, like what type of services.
Gotcha.
And so it really does depend. Like obviously when a person, like there's lots of OTs that work in an acute care hospital. So you can't go home because you have whatever injury or mental thing that's happened and you need to work on that in order to be able to get home. In my hand practice, that's in the hospital, but appointments are made for people to come to me. And so they have to have some kind of a thing going on, whether it's a repetitive strain, it can be like carpal tunnel or like, some kind of a numbness happening or difficulty with moving or using their hand. And then people can self-refer, but we do get a lot of our referrals from plastic surgeons. So we work really closely with the 2 plastic surgeons that we have here in Medicine Hat that treat all of our hand injuries and tendon injuries and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And then in schools, there's OTs. So children that are identified as having fine motor or sensory problems will get linked up with OT.
To help manage a lot of those problems that they may face as well. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like all of the things that you hear about, like sensory rooms and stuff like that, that's all kind of OT stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we have always heard of this. It's always been around us. It's just, yeah. Okay, interesting. So,
and then healthy living, I have to say, healthy living is a self-referral, and that's like for anybody that wants to learn about sleep, stress, energy. There's an exercise program, post-COVID, all those things.
Amazing. So kind of on those courses as well too, and you can find these on Healthy Living. What courses would you particularly recommend?
Well, I would recommend what a person needs because of the challenges that they're having.
There you go. Okay.
Like it's not really a blanket one size fits all. For example, I never told my clients in sleep class this, but I'm quite a good sleeper. So I wouldn't recommend sleep class for me because I'm a pretty good sleeper.
Yeah.
But you have identified that you're not. And so maybe I would recommend that to you.
That's right. Yeah, I am actually thinking of, well, one, getting home and going to sleep.
Yes.
But I'm also interested in kind of just learning a little bit more. Like I think I mentioned during the previous session and during our interview, there was only 2 ways that I kind of figured it was be tired or count sheep, and that doesn't work for me. So I just figured be tired. But no, I'm kind of interested to get into the headspace as well too of an occupational therapist. I mean, there's I'm sure a lot of questions that kind of go around that are part of the process. I'm still interested to get a little bit of clarity. Now, theoretically, let's say I had like an injury or a hairline fracture on my hand that I've been ignoring for the past few years that caused me a bit of irritation. What were some things that we might talk about there?
So I would want to know if you've seen a plastic surgeon.
No.
Okay.
Theoretically, I have
mean, like
not.
if that were to be happening in your world.
Yeah.
I would think that would be a good place to start because there are a few plastic surgeons in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
And they are experts in hand injuries. And it seems strange that there would be a fracture that would be not healing for such a long time. So I would want a little bit more investigation about that.
Yeah. So, well, this is like the second or third time now you mentioned like plastic surgeons. Is it, or do you folks like really work, like, do you work hand in hand practically, so to speak?
Waka waka. Kind of, yeah. So so each plastic surgeon, I think in Lethbridge as well as in Medicine Hat, they have like a plastic clinic day. So one day of the week that they see like tons and tons of patients, and we are on call for them on that day. So they just send whoever needs us down, and so it's kind of like we're ready for you.
Yeah.
And then we get a lot of our referrals from them because they're the hand experts.
Right.
So yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, so somebody hasn't seen a plastic surgeon to go over any of the hand stuff as well too.
Yeah.
And it's very strange that this theoretical wound hasn't necessarily been healing that much.
Yeah.
Now, also theoretically, somebody, myself, going into the clinic has been told that this won't break or heal properly because it hasn't been broken. It's more of just been cracked. Yeah. It's like an interesting case, I guess.
That is interesting. I've had sometimes people say like, my hand isn't broken, it's fractured. That's the same word to me.
Yeah.
So I like, that's more in the doctor pay grade. But what I would say to you is, what things make your hand feel better?
Well, things that make my hand feel better is typically if I massage it, kind of myself, like just off to the side, not necessarily kind of poking it there. What typically I found out seems to irritate it is if I'm using hand tools like hammers or something for extended periods
Tight
of time.
grip.
Yeah.
So that was my next question. What makes things feel worse?
Yeah.
So
tight grips.
prolonged activity where you're having to do a grip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm pounding on a door or something for an extended period of time.
Pressure on that area.
Yeah.
Have you tried anything like meds or ice or cold or like hot or?
I've tried ice when when it starts to be really sore. That seems to kind of numb it down, but then after that, nothing much. No.
When it hurts, how long does it tend to hurt for?
It's kind of a dull pain, lasts for about like an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's debilitating for your life.
No.
Does it stop you from being able to do the things that you want to be able to do?
No. I typically, once it starts to get sore, I take a break doing what I'm doing.
You're OTing yourself.
Who would have? Legit. Okay.
Okay, so even better than that, and let's take it one step further.
Okay, perfect. I'm down.
So rather than waiting until it starts to hurt and then taking a break, what if you took a break earlier than that? You know, you're hammering, and then you're like, well, last time when I hammered for 20 minutes, it got really sore. So I'm going to stop at 15. And give it a 10-minute break and then see how it feels again.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just anticipating when your injury is going to occur and preventing the pain from happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if that might prolong your ability to do the activity without ending up with that hour-long discomfort.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that is really just maintaining a lot of the wear and tear of regular people's bodies.
Yeah. Like, I'm terrible at this.
Yeah.
But, like, the very moment that you start to feel it, change it up.
Yeah.
Do something different. Change hands, you know, change body position, change activities, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I find some people might identify with it as well too. A lot of folks I find really just try to finish off whatever task they're at.
Everybody, it's a human thing.
Yes. They don't want to leave any task unfinished, so they really push themselves to try to finish it. And sometimes I can really extend you a little too far.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever tried compression on it?
Compression, like squeezing it?
No, like a wrap or a brace or something just over that area.
Again, all this being theoretical, I have not.
Oh,
no.
Okay. I mean, like somebody could potentially try something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. We'll have to give it a shot.
If indeed that was, you know, kinesio tape or something.
Just to kind of help put it. Yeah. Just to kind of help put it away. Okay, no, that's interesting. I find I find that a lot of this has to do with more of the, sorry, let me rephrase this entirely. The question that you had asked, is this debilitating to your life as well too? What happens if it is? Like where exactly does the path kind of go from there?
Well, then I would be a little bit more forceful, I guess. That's a strong word, but I would be like, you need to see the doc.
Or you need to really
like
compress
there's
it.
more to, there's something going on in there that needs a bit of medical attention about it, right? And then in the meantime of being able to see them, because sometimes there's a bit of a wait, then we would be talking about your activity and how it might be able to be adjusted, changed. Is there a different grip we could put on your hammer? Is there a way that we could, teach you how to do it on the other side? Is there are there compensatory ways that we can make your life so that you can still do life without having to experience that debilitating challenge? And
just having a chance to kind of live with and live around, I guess, that aspect of your life.
So there's kind of like two pathways. Like you have something go on. Is this something that can be fixed? And if so, then let's go that way. And if it's something that can't be fixed, then what kind of ways can we make it so that you can still do what you want to be able to do? And manage, right? And just manage that. Yeah. So we got lots of inventions and ideas, and it's so awesome just to be able to have to like problem solve and create, and What's if you don't mind me asking, and if you're able to kind of talk about it as well too, what was probably one of the more challenging tasks or practices of occupational therapy that you've had? Like a specific client kind of thing? Sure. Yeah. So a very recent client that we've been seeing in the rehab team that I'm a part of had a spinal thing go on where she had to have surgery, and quite debilitating. And so she can't lift her arms. She can't reach the top of her head. She can't lift her arms up above, like I think she can reach her eyebrows is the highest. Okay. And so she told me that she wanted to be able to get herself dressed. And she does not like button-up shirts. Okay, yeah, that could be very difficult. So, and because it's a neck injury, she can't flex her head into something. Yeah. And so this was actually like one of my most moments, because I was like, oh gosh, what am I gonna do for this? Like I don't know. And then I went for a run, clear the brain, and I was like, I got it. So I made this device. I've never seen it before. I invented it. It looks like a halo, like a circle, but it had a hinge on it. And then it had two long sticks coming down off of it. And so what she would do is she puts the shirt on the top of it, like it's sitting on her lap, so the two long sticks are down and the halo's here. Yep. Put the shirt on so that the neck hole is sitting right there. It's lined up. Okay. And then hold the sticks and go like this and put it on your head. Okay. And then the halo device was large enough that it would come down to here, and she would unhinge it and take it off. Yeah. And then she could take the shirt and pull it down. And just pull it down around. Wow. And it was honestly I was like, oh, this is amazing. Yes. And I showed my supervisor, and it was so funny because she videoed me using it the first time, and she there's an audible when I got it over my head without lifting my arms up. And then we took it to the patient's house, and my supervisor came with me because we were both jacked up. Yeah. And we were like, okay, I got this device, let's try it. And so she put her shirt on, and she was like, yeah, it works. I was like, no, but do you want to try it again? Yes. And she was like, no, I got it. Yeah. Sweet. Awesome. Thanks so much for this. Yeah. And then we made a doffing device too, which was just like a PVC pipe with a tennis ball on it, so that the tennis ball is a little bit more grippy. So she'd put it underneath, and then she would be able to put That's amazing. Her shirt off her head. Invention. I know. People are like, you should patent that. And I was like, I know there's very few people are in exactly that state. Yeah. And plus, that's what kind of makes me tick. want to figure out the next one.
Yeah, and move on to a new technology or a new
Yeah.
invention and a new problem as well.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for sharing that as well too. I think we're just pretty much about at the end of our time as well too. Thank you so much for the viewers who have been tuning in so far. I hope you've learned just about as much as I have as well too. So yes, thank you once again. This has been the Windy City's Finest. I'm Clark, he's Perry, and we've been with Don Olson. Say goodbye.
It's Clark and Perry on the case. Clark and Perry, do what it takes. Clark and Perry, investigate.
The activities and interests of local artists in the Windy City's Finest throughout both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Available on TELUS, Optic TV, On Demand, VidFlex, YouTube, and more for limited time only. Terms and conditions apply.